Mr. Karim was a man who owned everything that money could buy: big companies, tall buildings, expensive cars, and a mansion that almost looked like a palace. People called him the silent billionaire because he never talked too much and always stayed serious. But behind his serious face, there was a deep sadness that never left him. His only son, Ayan, had passed away 2 years ago. Since then, the world felt a little empty to him. On a quiet afternoon, when the sky was soft and the wind was slow, Karim decided to visit his son's private graveyard. The graveyard was inside his mansion's huge garden. It was a peaceful place filled with white roses, Ayan's favorite flowers. Karim walked slowly with a small bouquet in his hand. His footsteps were gentle, almost careful, as if he didn't want to disturb the silence. But that day, something strange happened. When Karim reached the stone path that led to the grave, he noticed a small figure sitting on the ground. At first, he thought maybe a gardener's child had lost their way. But as he came closer, he stopped. His eyes narrowed. A tiny girl, no more than 7 years old, was sitting in front of Ayan's grave, her head down, her shoulders shaking. She was crying. Her small hands wiped her cheeks again and again, but the tears kept falling. Her clothes were simple and a bit worn out. Her hair was tied back in a loose ponytail. Karim recognized her immediately. She was Mira, the daughter of his maid, Sophia. Karim felt a strange mix of shock and confusion. What was this little girl doing at his son's grave? And why was she crying like that? He stepped closer quietly, not wanting to scare her. "Mira?" he said softly. The girl quickly looked up, frightened for a moment. When she saw him, she tried to stand, but her legs shook. She wiped her face fast, trying to hide her tears. "Sir, I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to come here." Karim bent slightly so he was closer to her level. His voice was gentle. "It's okay, Mira. I just want to know, why are you crying here?" Mira pressed her lips together, looking down. For a few seconds, she didn't speak. Then she said something that confused Karim even more. "I promised him I would be strong, but I failed." Karim's heart tightened. "Promised who? Ayan?" Before he could ask, they heard someone running. Sophia appeared at the corner of the garden, breathing fast, her face filled with worry. When she saw Mira with Karim, her expression changed to shock and fear. She hurried toward them. "Mira, I told you not to wander," Sophia said, holding her daughter's shoulders. Her voice shook. It was clear she was scared, not because her daughter was in trouble, but because she didn't want her boss to be upset. Karim stood up straight and looked at Sophia calmly. "She wasn't wandering," he said. "She was crying at my son's grave." Sophia's face slowly lost color. She looked down, unable to meet his eyes. "Sir, I'm sorry," she said softly. "She shouldn't be here. I will take her away." But Karim raised his hand slightly. "Wait, I want to know why she was crying here." "She said she made a promise to Ayan. What does that mean?" Sophia stayed quiet. Her breathing became uneven. "Sir, I don't think it is something you want to hear." Karim, who rarely showed emotion, now looked deeply concerned. "I do want to know, Sophia. Please." Mira's small fingers held tightly onto her mother's clothes. She looked scared, but at the same time, it seemed like she wanted to speak. Her eyes were red and her voice was weak. "He was my friend," Mira whispered suddenly. Karim blinked. His son? Friends with the maid's daughter? That didn't sound possible. Ayan had tutors, friends from rich families, and a busy schedule. Karim never saw him play with anyone outside his social circle. But Mira continued, her voice cracking. "He used to talk to me when Mama was working in the house. I used to sit in the garden. He always came to check on me. He shared his toys with me. He taught me to read some English words." Sophia covered her mouth to stop a small sob. She had been hiding this for long. Karim felt a strange heaviness in his chest. His son never told him about this friendship. Mira looked at Ayan's grave again. "He told me one day. That when he grows up, he will help me and Mama. He said we will never be sad again. She wiped her tears again, shaking. I promised him I would stay strong. I promised I would never cry, but I broke it. I broke my promise. The garden fell completely silent. Kareem stood still, listening to the innocent voice of the child who had loved his son without knowing anything about status or wealth. He felt something break inside him, something he didn't even know was still alive. For the first time in 2 years, Kareem felt his son's presence again. But through the tears of a little girl he barely knew, and he suddenly realized something was terribly wrong in Sophia's life. Something Ayan had seen, but he had missed. The real story was just beginning. After the moment in the garden, Kareem could not stop thinking about Mira's words. That night, while sitting alone in his study, he kept replaying her voice in his mind. He was my friend. He promised me. It confused him. It surprised him. And somewhere deep inside, it hurt him too. His son Ayan had lived in the same house, walked through the same garden, and smiled at the same sky every day. Yet Kareem realized he never truly knew all the small details of Ayan's life. He remembered Ayan always trying to tell him stories during dinner, but Kareem used to listen with half his mind still on work. Now he wished he had listened a little more. The next morning, he asked Sophia to meet him in the living room after she finished her chores. She arrived looking nervous, holding her hands together tightly. Mira stood behind her, her eyes shy and scared. Kareem spoke softly, trying to make them comfortable. "I am not angry," he said. "I only want to understand. Please tell me everything about Ayan and Mira." Sophia exchanged a quick look with her daughter. It took her a moment before she finally began. "Sir, it started 1 year before your son passed away," she said quietly. "I used to bring Mira with me because we had no one at home to watch her. I told her to sit on the bench in the garden and not disturb anyone." She paused, her eyes soft with memory. One day, Ayan saw her sitting alone. He asked her why she looked bored. I tried to stop him, but he only smiled and said, "It's okay, Auntie. I want to talk." Kareem listened closely, imagining the scene. His son had always been gentle, always curious, always kind. Now he could see it clearly. Sophia continued, "From that day, almost every afternoon, Ayan would come to the garden after his studies. He brought toys, snacks, and even books. Sometimes he helped Mira with reading. Sometimes they just talked. Mira's small voice joined in. He told me jokes. He liked when I laughed," she said. Her eyes brightened for a moment before turning sad again. "He said I laughed like tiny bells." Kareem felt a sting in his heart. His son was gone, but his kindness remained alive through this small child. What else did they talk about? He asked softly. Mira thought for a moment. "He told me he wanted to be a good person like his teachers said. He told me rich people should help others, not show power." Sophia nodded slowly. "Your son had a very good heart, sir. He asked many times about our life, but I didn't want him to worry. Mira sometimes told him things. Maybe too much." Kareem gently looked at Mira. "What kind of things did you tell him?" The girl hesitated, holding her mother's hand tightly. "I told him. Sometimes Mama worked late. Sometimes we didn't have enough food. Sometimes we had to move houses because rent went up." She lowered her head. "But he always told me not to worry. He said he would help when he became older." Kareem felt a deep ache. He never knew his son had been silently planning kindness behind his back. And he felt guilt because Ayan had seen struggles that Kareem himself had never noticed. "But why did Mira go to Ayan's grave yesterday?" Kareem asked, trying to understand everything. Sophia's eyes filled with sadness. "Sir, Mira talks to Ayan's grave whenever she feels sad. Yesterday she overheard me talking to the landlord. Our rent is due again, and I don't know how we will pay. So she ran to the garden and cried near the only friend she ever trusted." Kareem looked at the little girl. She stared at her feet, ashamed as if she had done something wrong. "You don't have to hide your tears anymore," Kareem said gently. Ayan cared about you. And I want to know everything because he would want me to. Sophia quickly shook her head. No, sir, we do not expect anything. Ayan helped us by giving Mira joy. That was enough. Please don't feel responsible. But Karim didn't agree. How could he? He had spent his life thinking money solved everything. Yet he missed the silent cry of a family right beside him. He glanced at the garden through the window. Sunlight touched the flowers gently, the same flowers Ayan used to pick. Tell me, Karim said softly, did Ayan ever talk about me? Sophia looked surprised. Yes, sir, he admired you. He said you were strong and smart. But, she hesitated. But what? Karim asked. Mira answered instead. He said he wished you smiled more. He said you had a heavy heart, but you didn't show it. Karim felt tears burning the back of his eyes. He blinked slowly, trying to hide it. His own son had understood him better than anyone else. A silence filled the room. A gentle silence, but also painful. Then Karim spoke again, his voice firm this time. From today, I want to know everything. I want to understand the truth behind Mira's promise. And I want to understand what Ayan saw in your life. Sophia lowered her head, unsure whether to speak or stay quiet. But Mira lifted her tiny voice. Sir, Ayan always said I was brave. But yesterday, I was scared. We might lose our home. Mama is not well. And I didn't know what to do. Her lips trembled. I thought Ayan would be sad because I am weak. Karim's heart broke completely. He kneeled in front of her again, just like in the garden. You are not weak, he said softly. You are brave for telling the truth. And from now on, you will not face anything alone. The words hung in the air like a new beginning. Neither Sophia nor Mira knew what Karim meant. But deep inside, Karim already felt something changing, his heart, his purpose, and the way he saw the world. The hidden friendship was only the start. The truth behind it was still waiting to be uncovered. That night, Karim sat awake in his room long after everyone had gone to sleep. The house was quiet, but his mind was not. Every word Mira spoke earlier kept echoing inside him. I promised him. I would stay strong. I broke my promise. He stared at a framed photo of Ayan on his desk. His son's smile felt different, now warmer, deeper, almost as if it carried a message he had ignored for too long. I didn't know you helped her, Karim whispered to the photo. The silence felt heavy. The next morning, Karim decided he needed to understand everything from Mira directly. He waited in the garden until Sophia arrived for work. Mira followed her, holding her mother's hand. She was still shy, still quiet, but there was trust in her eyes now. Karim sat on a bench and called them over gently. Come sit, he said softly. I want to talk again. Mira sat beside her mother, her small legs swinging nervously. Her fingers twisted the edge of her shirt. Karim smiled, trying to make her comfortable. Mira, yesterday you said you made a promise to Ayan. Can you tell me what that promise was? She hesitated. Her eyes grew shiny again. Sophia put an arm around her, giving her courage. Finally, Mira spoke in a tiny voice. He told me that no matter what happens, I should stay strong and not cry. He said I should always believe things will get better. Why did he say that? Karim asked gently. Mira looked down. Because I told him sometimes Mama cries at night. And sometimes I hear people shouting at our door because we can't pay rent. He didn't like when I got scared, so he made me promise. Promise I would be brave. Karim felt something tighten in his chest. His son had tried to protect someone else's child from fear, while he himself was fighting his own illness quietly. Did he ever tell you why he wanted to help you and your mother? Karim asked softly. Mira nodded. He said, everyone deserves a good life. He said money is not only for big houses. He said it should help people. Those words hit Karim like a wave. It was as if Ayan had been trying to teach his father through someone else. Sophia wiped her eyes quietly. Sir, Ayan was like a blessing for us. He treated Mira like a little sister. He shared his snacks even though I told him not to waste them on us. He gave her small gifts sometimes, like pencils or storybooks. When Mira got sick once, Ayan sat with her for hours. Kareem felt something inside him break a little more. "My son never told me," he whispered. Sophia lowered her head. "Sir, he said you were very busy. He didn't want to trouble you. He said he would help us when he grew older." Mira's voice cracked again. "He said when he becomes a big man, he will make sure we never get scared again. He promised." Her voice broke and tears spilled down her cheeks. Kareem leaned closer. "And you promised him you would stay strong, right?" She nodded. "Yes. But I didn't." "Why not?" Kareem asked, though he already felt he knew the answer. Mira took a deep breath. "Because Mama is sick. She coughs a lot, and sometimes she feels dizzy. And the landlord said if we don't give rent this week, we must leave the house." I got scared. I thought, I should talk to Ayan. He always made me feel safe. Her small hands covered her face. "I'm sorry. I broke my promise." At that moment, Kareem felt his heart sink completely. This child had carried fear, pain, and responsibility much bigger than her age. And she had no one to comfort her except the memory of his son. Kareem gently lifted her hands away from her face. "You didn't break your promise," he said calmly. "You did the bravest thing you could. You spoke the truth." "That is strength," Mira sniffed. "But I cried." "It's okay to cry," Kareem replied softly. "Even I cry for Ayan. Crying doesn't make you weak." For a moment, Mira looked at him with surprise. She had never imagined a billionaire, someone so powerful, would also feel like her. That small realization made her stop shaking. Kareem turned to Sophia. "Is everything Mira said true?" Sophia looked ashamed. "Yes, sir. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to think I was asking for help. I never wanted to mix work with my problems." Kareem shook his head slowly. "You were struggling right in front of me, and I didn't see it," he said quietly, almost to himself. "My own son saw what I didn't." Sophia lowered her head. "Sir, life became hard after my husband passed away. Rent kept increasing. I tried to work more hours, but my health started getting worse. I thought I could manage, but..." Her voice broke. "I was wrong." Mira hugged her mother, trying to comfort her. The scene touched Kareem deeply. These two were fighting life silently while he was living in a mansion with everything he needed. Finally, Kareem stood, his voice calm but firm. "I want to understand everything. Your rent problems, your health, your work, everything. I cannot ignore it anymore." Mira looked up with hope. "Will things get better now, sir?" Kareem placed his hand gently on her head. "Yes," he said. "Things will get better. I won't let your promise break." Mira blinked. "My promise to Ayan?" Kareem nodded slowly. "And mine as a father." As they stood in the quiet garden, one thing became clear. Ayan's words, his promise, and his kindness were about to change all their lives. The broken promise had opened the door to a truth Kareem never knew. But now he was ready to face it. The next morning, Kareem woke up earlier than usual. The sun had barely touched the horizon, but he was already sitting in his office with a notebook in front of him. He wrote one name on top of the page, Ayan. Then under it he wrote Mira, Sophia, the promise. He stared at the words for a long time. For the first time since his son's passing, Kareem felt a purpose stronger than business or money. His son had seen something important, and now it was his turn to see it too. He closed the notebook and stood up. "Today," he whispered, "I will find the truth." Kareem began by watching quietly. From his office window, he saw Sophia walking slowly across the lawn to begin her daily work. She held a small basket of cleaning items, but her steps were uneven. Every few minutes, she pressed a hand to her chest and breathed heavily. It was a sight he had never noticed before. He remembered her saying she was fine, but now he saw the truth. She was forcing herself to work, even when her body was weak. Ayan must have noticed this long before anyone else. Later in the day, Karim went to the kitchen. A small lunchbox sat on the counter, the one Sophia brought every day. Inside were only 2 flatbreads and a few vegetables, barely enough for a child, let alone a full day of work. The cook, an old man named Haroun, noticed Karim looking. "Sir," Haroun said softly, "sometimes she doesn't bring anything at all. She says she is not hungry, but I know she just wants to save food for her daughter." Karim closed the box slowly and felt guilt rise in his chest. His mansion had a huge kitchen full of food, yet someone under his own roof was struggling for basic meals. Ayan would have hated to see that. Later, Karim called Mira over to the garden. "Mira," he asked gently, "do you go to school?" The girl hesitated. "I used to, but not anymore." "Why not?" She played with the corner of her dress. "Mama couldn't pay the fees. They said I can come back only after everything is paid." Karim felt a heavy silence fall between them. A 7-year-old should be learning, laughing, dreaming, not worrying about school fees. He knew then that Ayan had not just been a friend to Mira, he had been a protector. Karim stood, took a deep breath, and made a decision. "I need to know everything," he said softly. That evening, without telling anyone, Karim asked his driver to take him to the address Sophia had written on her job application long ago. The car stopped in front of a small, old building. Paint was peeling off the walls. The stairway was cracked. A lonely bulb flickered above the door. Karim climbed the stairs. Every step echoed with a cold truth. He had never imagined one of his employees lived like this. The hallway was narrow. A few children played with broken toys. A woman washed clothes in a bucket. An old man coughed in a corner. This was a world far from Karim's, yet his son had cared for someone from here. He reached Sophia's door. It was covered in scratches, and a big paper notice was pinned to it. "Final rent warning." Karim froze. He stared at the paper again. Final warning meant they had very little time left before being forced out. With a slow breath, he opened the door left unlocked because the lock was broken. Inside, the room was small. Only one bed. One chair, a shelf with old clothes, a few books. A cracked water jug. He walked to the corner where Mira's small school bag hung. Inside it were unused notebooks, a broken pencil, and Ayan's old storybook, the one he had given her. Karim picked up the book and held it to his chest. "My son wanted to help you," he whispered. "And I didn't see any of it." As he explored the small room, his eyes fell on a bundle of papers placed under a cup. When he opened them, he felt his breath stop. Old medical reports, unpaid hospital bills, doctor's warnings, prescription slips. All with one name, Sophia. She had been hiding an illness. She had been working despite it. And she had done everything to make sure Mira didn't suffer. Ayan must have sensed this too. His son had always had a heart that noticed things adults ignored. Karim felt a deep ache spread inside him. It wasn't just financial trouble. It was survival. He stood in the middle of the tiny room silent, heartbroken, angry at himself, and overwhelmed. He understood everything now. Mira cried because she feared losing their home. She feared losing her mother. She feared breaking a promise to Ayan. And all this time he had been living in comfort, unaware. He made a quiet decision in that moment, a vow that felt heavier than anything he had ever done. "I will fix this," he whispered. "For Ayan, for Mira, for Sophia." He turned to leave the house, the rent notice still fluttering on the door. Outside, the evening sky glowed with the soft orange light of sunset. To Karim, it felt like a sign. Ayan was guiding him toward the truth. And the truth demanded action. The investigation was complete. Now it was time to change their lives forever. The next morning, Karim woke with a new heaviness in his heart, but also with clarity he had not felt in years. He had seen with his own eyes how Sophia and Mira lived. He had seen the rent warnings, the empty food shelves, and the medical reports hidden under a broken cup. But something still felt unfinished. Why had Ayan cared so much? How much had his son really understood? What had he been keeping inside his young heart? Kareem needed answers that only Ayan's teachers might know. So he called his driver again and headed to Ayan's old school. The school was a warm, cheerful place filled with children's laughter. But for Kareem, every corner reminded him of Ayan, his footsteps, his smile, his voice. The principal, an older gentleman with kind eyes, welcomed him with respect. "Sir, it is good to see you," the principal said gently. "How can we help you today?" Kareem paused for a moment. "I want to know more about my son," he said. "Not the grades, not awards. I want to know who he was." As a person, the principal nodded with deep understanding. "Please come with me." He led Kareem to a small room filled with student files, old projects, and lost and found items. Then he called Ayan's class teacher, Miss Roshna, a young woman with a gentle face who had taught Ayan for 2 years. When she entered and saw Kareem, her eyes softened with sadness. "Sir, Ayan was special," she said quietly. "I still miss him every day." Kareem felt his throat tighten. "Please tell me everything you remember about him." Miss Roshna smiled faintly. "Ayan always noticed people. He was kind. He helped students who were alone, and he often defended those who were shy. He once stood up for a boy who couldn't speak well. Another time he shared his lunch with a girl who forgot hers. He was mature for his age." Kareem had never fully known that side of Ayan. He lowered his gaze, hiding the emotion in his eyes. "Did he ever talk about a girl named Mira?" Kareem asked. The teacher nodded, surprised that he knew. "Yes, he mentioned her often. He said she was brave and smart, even though she didn't go to school here. He talked about how she loved books. He once asked me if I had extra storybooks he could give her." Kareem felt a painful warmth spread in his chest. His son had been thinking of helping someone, even while fighting his own illness. Miss Roshna continued softly. "Ayan told me he wanted to help her family someday. He said that people shouldn't suffer just because they are poor." Those were his exact words. Kareem took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "Is there anything of my son's that he left behind here?" he asked quietly. The teacher nodded and turned to a small drawer. She pulled out a thin notebook with a blue cover. "This belonged to Ayan," she said. "He used to write small thoughts and dreams in it. I kept it safe after he passed. I hoped one day you would ask for it." Kareem accepted the notebook with trembling hands. He sat in the empty classroom, sunlight falling across the wooden desk as he slowly opened the notebook. The first page had Ayan's handwriting, small, neat, full of innocence. "When I grow up, I want to help people who feel sad." Kareem blinked, swallowing hard. He turned the page. "Baba works hard. I want to be like him. But I want to have time for people too." His heart twisted painfully. Ayan had seen something Kareem never spoke about: the silent distance, the long work hours, the emotional walls. Another page. "Mira smiles even when she is scared. That's brave. I want to help her and her mama when I grow big." Kareem closed his eyes for a moment. His son had written about Mira as if she was a tiny light in his life. Their friendship had been real, pure, simple, and he, as a father, had known nothing. Then he turned to the last written page. It had a simple drawing of Kareem, Ayan, Mira, and Sophia standing together under a tree. Under it, Ayan wrote, "Dad says billionaires must do good things. So when I become one, I will start with Mira." Kareem felt tears rolling down his cheeks. For a moment, he let them fall. He didn't hide them this time. There was no need. His son had understood life better than he ever did. A child had seen humanity clearly, something adults often forget. After sitting silently for several minutes, Kareem wiped his face and stood up. His heart felt heavier but stronger. Ayan had left him a roadmap, a legacy, a dream. And Kareem knew exactly what he had to do next. As he walked toward the school gate, he paused at the playground. Children laughed and ran around, just like Ayan once did. He imagined his son smiling, watching him take the next step. He whispered softly into the wind, "I understand now, Ayan. I know what you were trying to teach me." Then he spoke words that would change everything. "I will finish what you started." When Karim returned to his car, he held the notebook tightly to his chest. It wasn't just a notebook, it was a message. A message from a child who left too soon. A message that would guide Karim to transform the lives of two people who meant the world to his son. And this was only the beginning. Karim returned home with Ayan's notebook held tightly in his hand. The house felt different, now quieter, heavier, almost as if it was waiting for him to take the next step. He walked slowly through the hall, past the photos of Ayan smiling on family trips, past the empty study table where his son used to do his homework. Every memory whispered the same message: help them. Like I wanted to. Karim sat in the living room for a long time, staring at the notebook. The blue cover now felt like a bridge connecting him to his son's heart. Finally, he stood up with calm determination. It was time to act. He asked a guard to call Sophia and her daughter Mira into the living room. Soon they entered, Sophia worried, Mira holding her mother's hand tightly, both unsure why the billionaire had called them. Karim gently motioned for them to sit. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. "I want to talk about something important." Mira looked up with wide, innocent eyes. Sophia looked tense, almost scared, as if she was waiting for bad news. Karim placed Ayan's notebook on the table. "This belongs to my son," he said. "He wrote many things about you," Sophia gasped softly. Mira's eyes grew moist again. Karim continued, "Ayan cared for you both deeply. He wanted to help you. He was planning to do so when he grew up." "I didn't know all this until today." Sophia covered her mouth, trying to hold her tears. "Sir, he was like sunshine in our lives," she whispered. "He always treated Mira like family." Karim nodded slowly. "Yes, and now it is my turn to honor his wishes." Karim took a deep breath. "I went to your house yesterday," he said. "I saw the rent warning. I saw the empty shelves. I saw the medical papers you tried to hide." Sophia's face fell in shame. She lowered her eyes, trembling slightly. "Sir, I didn't want to trouble you," she said quietly. "These are our problems. You already give me work. I didn't want to be a burden." Karim shook his head gently. "No, Sophia, you are not a burden. You are a hard-working woman, and your daughter is a brave child. I should have seen your struggles earlier. Ayan did, but I did not." His voice softened. "My son understood kindness better than I did." Sophia sniffed, unable to speak. Mira took a small step forward and looked up at him. "Sir, will Mama get better now?" she asked innocently. Karim's heart melted. "Yes, Mira," he said firmly. "From today, everything will change." He turned to Sophia. "First, I will take responsibility for your medical treatment," he said. "I will arrange the best doctors for you. You should not be working while sick." Sophia shook her head quickly. "Sir, please. That is too much." "It is not," Karim said gently. "I am doing this for Ayan, and for you." For the first time, Sophia felt completely speechless. Tears rolled down her cheeks silently. Mira held her mother's hand tightly, smiling through her own tears. "Second," Karim continued, "I will clear all your rent, and I will buy that house for you, so you will never have to fear losing your home again." Sophia gasped loudly. Mira's eyes widened with surprise. You will buy our house?" Sophia whispered, unbelieving. "Yes," Karim said calmly. "Ayan wanted you both to be safe. A house is the first step." Sophia broke into tears again, this time from relief, not fear. Karim then knelt down in front of Mira, just like he did on the day he found her crying at the grave. "Mira," he said softly, "you are a bright and brave girl. You deserve to study in a good school, so from today, your education will be my responsibility." Her small hands covered her mouth. "I can go to school again?" "Yes," Karim said with a warm smile. You will go to the best school in the city. Just like Ayan once did. Mira couldn't stop her tears. She stepped forward and hugged Kareem's arm gently, as if afraid he might disappear if she let go. But then Kareem said the words that shocked both of them. I want you both to live here, in this mansion, in a guest house nearby, so you will always be close, for Ayan. And for yourselves. Sophia stared at him, stunned. Sir, why would you do all this for us? Kareem looked at Ayan's photo hanging on the opposite wall. Because my son wanted to help you, he said. And because you are not just my maid and her daughter. You were part of Ayan's world, you mattered to him, and now, you matter to me. His voice softened even more. And because Ayan would never forgive me if I let you suffer. Sophia broke down crying, her hands covering her face. Mira hugged her tightly, tears falling onto her mother's dress. For the first time in a long time, the mansion felt warm, filled not with silence, but with emotion, truth, and connection. Kareem stood up and looked at them with gentle eyes. From today, he said, you are not alone. Ayan's promise will live through me, and I will protect you. Just like he wanted. Sophia and Mira nodded, still crying, but now with hope they had lost long ago. In that moment, the house felt alive again. Not because of wealth, not because of power, but because Ayan's kindness had finally come full circle. And Kareem's heart was no longer empty. The days that followed were unlike anything Sophia and Mira had ever experienced. For the first time in years, their lives were filled with stability instead of fear. Kareem arranged everything quietly, but with great care: doctor appointments, new clothes for Mira, food supplies for their new guest house, even a small bookshelf filled with storybooks just like Ayan once shared. Sophia struggled to believe any of it was real. Sometimes she would touch her new house key again and again, just to remind herself she was not dreaming. Mira would wake up early every morning, excited, because each sunrise meant one step closer to school, one step closer to fulfilling her promise to Ayan. But for Kareem, this change was more than helping someone. It felt like healing. For the first time in 2 years, he felt his heart breathing again. A week later, Mira stood in front of her new school wearing a neat uniform. Her hair was tied with 2 matching ribbons. Her shoes were polished, shining under the morning sun. Kareem had woken up early just to drop her himself. When he looked at her, he could almost see Ayan standing beside her, smiling proudly. You look very brave today, Kareem said. Mira smiled shyly. Ayan used to say that too. Then he was right. Kareem placed his hand gently on her shoulder. Go on. This is your new beginning. Mira took a deep breath and walked through the school gate. For a moment, she paused and looked back at Kareem. He nodded encouragingly, and just like that, she entered a world she thought she had lost forever. While Mira began school, Sophia started her medical treatment. Kareem made sure she visited the best doctors. Her cough slowly faded, her weakness decreased, and her face began to glow with health she thought she would never have again. One evening, she came out of the clinic with a smile, something Kareem had never seen before. Sir, the doctor says I will be fully fine with time. Kareem smiled softly. You deserve a healthy life, Sophia. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they were full of gratitude, not fear. Every Saturday, Kareem and Mira walked together to Ayan's grave. Sophia often joined them, carrying fresh flowers. Mira always brought a small drawing or a school assignment, something she wanted to show Ayan. One morning, as they reached the grave, Mira placed a flower on the stone and whispered, Ayan, I am in school now. I made a friend today. Her name is Sarah. I think you will like her too. Kareem watched her with a gentle smile. This was the moment he realized Mira wasn't crying anymore. She was living, growing, healing, just like he was. News of the billionaire helping his maid's family spread quietly through the city. People didn't gossip harshly this time. Instead, they admired the kindness and humanity behind his actions. Some people said Kareem had changed. But the truth was different. He hadn't changed. He had finally understood who he was always meant to be. One day, an old friend visited his mansion and said, "You look lighter. Kareem, happier." Kareem simply smiled and replied, "Sometimes children teach us what adults never learn." He did not mention Ian's notebook, but it remained on his desk, always open to the page where his son wrote, "I will start with Mira." A few months later, Mira stood on her new school stage holding a certificate. She had ranked top in her class. The audience clapped, teachers smiled, and Sophia's tears fell nonstop from joy. When Mira found Kareem in the crowd, she ran up to him holding the certificate high. "Sir, look, I did it," she said proudly. Kareem lifted her in his arms. "I am proud of you, Mira. Very proud." She hugged him tightly and whispered, "I kept my promise. I stayed strong." Kareem's eyes softened. "Yes, you did." And Ayan would be so happy. Sophia stood behind them, her hands covering her mouth again, overwhelmed with emotion. For the first time in her life, the future did not look frightening. It looked bright. That evening, Kareem visited Ayan's room. He sat on the bed, looking around softly. The room was still filled with toys, books, and memories that refused to fade. He opened Ayan's notebook once more and read the final line again. "When I grow up, I will help Mira. She is my friend." Kareem whispered into the silence, "My son, I finished your promise. I hope you're proud of me." A gentle breeze entered through the window, brushing the curtains softly. Kareem closed his eyes for a moment, feeling almost as if Ayan was there, smiling at him. A few months later, life settled into a warm rhythm. Sophia worked lighter hours. Mira shined brighter each day, and Kareem, he no longer walked through the mansion alone. There was laughter now, soft voices, footsteps, little joys. One evening, while they all sat in the garden having tea together, Mira looked up at Kareem and asked, "Sir, can I call you Uncle Kareem?" He smiled warmly. "Yes, Mira, you can." She leaned against him with a peaceful sigh. Sophia watched them, eyes misty, and whispered, "Thank you for giving us a new life." Kareem nodded. "No, thank Awan, he brought us together." In that moment, under the soft orange glow of sunset, they all felt it. A family was not made by blood alone. It was made by kindness, love, and promises kept. And Ayan's promise lived forever.